Hello, everyone. So, today I'm going to start talking about the next chapter within the topic of leadership. So, we've done planning, organizing, and then we're talking about the third function of management, which is leadership. So, within leadership, we've talked about personality and other individual differences. So, today is the day to talk about motivation. So, let me do what I normally do. Let me um, do a screen share so that you can see what I'm looking at. Let's start talking about motivation. So I will tell you that most of the time when I have clients or when I have people in workshops, the one topic, the recurring topic that keeps coming back over and over and that people ask me the most questions about is the topic of motivation. How do I motivate my employees to work or to improve their performance or to go above and beyond, to do extra, to help that coworker that needs help, because that would improve the culture of the organization. Um, so motivation deals with all of those different types of behaviors. What is motivation? Pretty much it's the psychological processes that arouse and direct behavior of any kind. And there are different factors that will motivate behavior. Um, the factors that determine motivation can be sort of split into two: personality or personal factors, individual factors, and then contextual or situational factors. Personal factors are such as personality, ability, your emotions, your attitudes, and your needs at the moment. And then situational factors could be the culture of the organization, uh, your cultural values that you've been brought up with, the environment that you're in, um, your leader's behavior, what kind of rewards and punishments are in place. One of the first topics on motivation usually deals with rewards as well as motivation. And there are two kinds of rewards and motivation: intrinsic versus extrinsic. I have added a link that is takes you to a video that very beautifully explains extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. So I would encourage you to pause right here on our video and go down to the description box and open that video and walk through it, and then come back to my video when you're ready. So we've talked about why motivation is important. Think about it. Employers want to hire the best people. Okay? They want people to be motivated to, or they want talented workers to be motivated to work for their company or to come work for their company. You want people to be motivated to stay with your company, and you want people to be engaged while they're in your company and to be able to go above and beyond what's asked from just their job description. And going above and beyond is organizational citizenship behaviors, helping people in your organization, engaging in events in the organization, speaking up to help improve the organization. You want people to be able to do that, or to do that, be motivated, driven to do that. And so the topic of motivation is extremely important. There are different perspectives on motivation. I sort of divide them into four big categories. The first category is the classical content theories of motivation. Um, Maslow's theory, McClelland's theory, Herzberg's theory. These are the classical perspectives on motivation. And then you have the modernists or the modern perspectives, which is process theories of motivation. And then you have the interactionist perspectives, where the person job fit and the job design or the job characteristics model comes in. And finally, you have the behavioral theories of motivation, the reinforcement theories that come from classical behaviorism from psychology. So let's start talking about these different perspectives and start with the first one, the content theories or the classical theories of motivation. Uh, Content theories are also called needs-based theories because they emphasize need for something as a basis of all motivation. Needs are defined as psychological or physiological deficiencies that arouse behavior. Most of these theories, when we look at them, might sound, and some even are, overly simplistic theories. However, what is uh, remarkable about these theories is that they were the precursor of modern process theories and job design theories. Without the work being done in these theories from early thinkers and early psychologists, some of the more modern theories may not have come about. So, classical theories may not always be applicable, but they are very good bedrock to understand future theories of motivation. The very first theory of content theory, or the classical theory of motivation, is Maslow's theory of the needs hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow, in 1943 proposed this theory, and he was the first person to talk about motivation at all ever. And his theory of motivation says that there are 5 levels of needs that individuals have, and individuals will only have the next need once the previous lower level need or the lower order need has been fulfilled. So if you look here, there's a pyramid going from bottom need to the top need, and Maslow says, well, people won't have the next upper order need till the lower ones met. So what are these needs? Well, at the very bottom is the physiological need. These are the most basic human physical needs, in which one is concerned with hunger, clothing, shelter, thirst, and sex. And only after these needs have been fulfilled does the person move on to the next level, which is safety needs. These needs are concerned with physical and emotional security and safety. So that person is concerned with avoiding violence and threats. Once these needs are met, only then does a person start feeling the need for love, or these are also called affiliation needs. These are basic needs and security that are taken care of through love, friendship, affection, belonging to a group. And then come the esteem needs or the self-esteem needs. These are the needs that a person starts feeling after their lower order needs have been met. This is the need for social interaction vis-a-vis status, right? So people focus on such matters as self-respect, status, reputation, recognition, self-confidence, feeling of self-worth. Those are the self-esteem needs. Finally, self-actualization is the highest level of need, and self-actualization can also be looked on as self-fulfillment, the need to develop one's fullest potential or to become the best that one is capable of becoming. It's a really nice theory, really neatly packed, very simplistic though. It assumes that people cannot have a need for safety or love if they're missing any of the lower order needs. But those of you who've ever given up food and water to study for an exam or to get through a project, you know that that's not true. Besides, there isn't a lot of research support for this theory. So this theory sounds interesting on the face of it, but there isn't a lot of support. So it's not a good idea to apply this theory. A lot of times managers apply this theory in a very faulty way, because when they see an employee who's not motivated, they think, well, maybe if we give this employee more money, which money only satisfies your lower order needs of safety and physiological needs, they assume that the person would start working more or be more engaged at work. And we've seen that's not true. In fact, there's consistent research that shows money does not produce permanent improvements. More money does not produce permanent improvements in performance. So the next theory of need comes from McClelland. McClelland's needs theory, again, it is a needs-based theory. He proposed this theory in the early 1960s, and according to him, there are 3 basic needs. So forget Maslow's hierarchy when it comes to McClelland. He says there are 3 needs: need for achievement, need for affiliation, and need for power. And these are the major motives determining people's behavior at the workplace. Right? So need for achievement is the desire to achieve excellence in challenging tasks. Need for affiliation is the desire for friendly and warm relations with other people. And then need for power is the desire to be responsible for or control other people. Right? This need assumes that a well-balanced individual would have all these needs in equal proportion. And if an individual has one need that's bigger or that's stronger than any of the other needs, then there's something wrong with that. Well, there are a lot of problems with this theory. First thing, it doesn't take into account cultural differences, such as collectivistic cultures punish achievement at the expense of affiliation, and they reward higher than normal affiliation values, as opposed to individualistic cultures such as the US, where achievement is rewarded at the expense of um, affiliation. All right. Um, does that mean one culture is better or more balanced than the other? No, we learned that earlier in this class that cultural differences don't mean that one culture is better than the other. It's just that it's a different way of looking at the same phenomenon. On top of that, the second problem with this theory does not take into account gender differences in social norms. So we found that women in many societies, females in many societies, are raised and indeed rewarded for higher affiliation values and affiliation needs. And they're taught to have more affiliation needs, whereas men are taught to have more power and achievement needs. Again, does that mean women are freaks? No, not really. It just shows socially constructed gender differences. And so this theory is very limited. It doesn't really help explain motivation in a very good way. However, this theory also is a precursor to Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory. Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory that came out more recently in 2000 assumes that people are driven to try to grow and attain fulfillment with their behavior and well-being influenced by three innate needs: need for competence, need for autonomy, and need for relatedness. So what is competence? Competence refers to the idea that I want to feel a sense of mastery. So people need to feel qualified, knowledgeable, and capable of completing a goal or task and to learn different skills. Autonomy refers to the idea that I want to feel independent and able to influence my environment. So people feel the need to have freedom and discretion to determine what they want to do and how they want to do it. Finally, the need for relatedness refers to the need to become connected to other people. So it refers to how people need to feel a sense of belonging and attachment to others. And Deci and Ryan say that these are the three needs, and they call it the self-determination theory. Finally, in the classical work is Herzberg's two-factor theory. Now, this theory changes the way people look at satisfaction and dissatisfaction with work in a very different way. Traditionally, people think of satisfaction and dissatisfaction as two ends of a scale. So let me see if I can get a pointer or no. Let me see. Nope, I'm not able to bring up the pointer. All right, I'm just gonna have to figure out how to explain that without diagram. So if you see, there are two scales in this particular picture. In the slide right here, the no satisfaction to satisfaction, and then dissatisfaction to no dissatisfaction. So originally people thought, well, one end of the scale is dissatisfaction, and the other end of the scale is satisfaction, that it's a sliding scale. If you're dissatisfied, that means you're not satisfied. And vice versa. Herzberg said, no, satisfaction, or rather happiness, and dissatisfaction, or rather unhappiness, are two different things, right? So Herzberg said, do not confuse happiness and unhappiness as two opposite sides of the same coin. They're two different things. A person might be happy and unhappy at the same time. And how is that? They said there are two distinct factors. They call hygiene factors and motivating factors. They said hygiene factors are factors associated with job dissatisfaction, which affect the job context in which people work. So if a person doesn't have good pay and security, or if the working conditions are bad, they said people will feel dissatisfied. But if you have good pay, good supervisors, good company policies, that does not mean a person becomes happy. It just means they're not going to be unhappy. To be happy, companies need to provide what they call motivating factors. Motivating factors are factors associated with job satisfaction and affects the job's content, um, or the rewards of the job, not the context. So it's not dependent on the situation of the job, it's dependent on the actual content of the job. So for example, is it a job that provides recognition, that gives you a sense of achievement? Is the work challenging? Do you have responsibility? Do you have opportunities for moving up and getting promoted and getting better status and recognition? And if all those things are present, people feel happy or satisfied. And so Hertzberg said, just because you're giving people basic hygiene factors doesn't mean that they'll be motivated to go above and beyond. For people to go above and beyond their job, you have to provide them motivating factors. So this theory comes closer to what application of motivation is. Just giving people good pay is not enough. You have to go above and beyond. So if you look at all these four classical theories, there are a lot of overlaps between them. So most of them talk about higher order needs. Maslow's theory talks about the lower order needs, and it's the only one from all the four that talks about them. So now we move on to the next different category of needs. These are the process theories of need, or the more modern theories of need. They look at or rather process theories of motivation, I'm so sorry. Process theories of motivation, not needs. They don't look at motivation as a need or something that's lacking. They look at motivation as this process, something is happening in steps. The very first one, there are three in there. The very first one is Adams' 1963 equity theory. John Stacey Adams proposed this theory of that focus on employee perceptions as to how fairly they think they are being treated compared to others. So Adams said, people are always comparing their inputs and their outputs to other people. So the input would be anything from number of hours you work, number of what your education or skill level is, and outputs would be the rewards you get, salary, bonus, vacation days, or even punishment. Adam said people are always comparing how much work do I put in and what am I getting out of it? And how much work is my colleague putting in? And how come they're getting paid more? Or how come they're getting more bonuses than I am? And so this is pretty much what the equity theory is looking at. Adam says that when people perceive that I'm getting less outputs compared to my inputs, they will either try to increase their outputs, so try to get better rewards. I put in more hours of work. For example, I think I put in more hours of work than my colleague, but I'm getting paid less than my colleague. So what can I do? I have two choices. I can go and try to get more money so that I am at par with my colleague, or I, reduce my inputs and I say, well, I really shouldn't be working these many hours then. I should be working the same number of hours that justifies the pay that I'm getting. So equity theory talks about how people, perceive. It's all about perception. Employee perception is what counts. And if you want to apply this theory, how do you apply this theory? By understanding that people are comparing each other. Equity theory takes that basic idea of keeping up with the Joneses that American culture shows, that people are always comparing themselves with their colleagues and co-workers. And so it's really beneficial to the company to understand it and use it in a productive way. How do you use it? By making rewards contingent upon inputs, making the connection very clear and being very transparent. So companies that are transparent about how to get a promotion, how to get better pay, that tie pay with skills or pay to performance, they can use those metrics to motivate their other employees. So for example, if I find out, when I go to my boss and I find out that my colleague is getting paid more for the same work because my company values degrees and education. And let's say my boss says, you only have a PhD. This other person has a PhD. Um, I don't know, let's say two PhDs, or let's say this, they say, well, this person has a PhD and more experience teaching than you do, or they have more publications than you do, which is why we pay them more. And if you would like to have the same pay scale, these are the things you could publish more papers, or you could, wait to get that much experience. So um, a lot of companies use equity theory in this way. If you want to learn a little bit more on equity theory, I have a link for it in the description box. Please watch it, and it will help you get links to further other explanations of equity theories. Let's go to the next one, Victor Vroom's expectancy theory. Expectancy theory examines how much do you want something, and people's own analysis of how likely they are to get it, right? So this theory, expectancy theory, suggests that people are motivated by two things, right? Those two things that I talked about. How much they want something. If I'm getting a reward in my company that I don't really care for, I wouldn't really work for it. Let's say my company has the reward that if people, all right, there's an example. If a company wants people to stop smoking, it says, well, if you stop smoking, you get, I don't know, parking space, prime parking space. But what if I get to work on public transportation? Parking space really isn't something that I crave or desire. Would I really give up my smoking behavior if I smoke? Chances are not really, and that's what Vroom's expectancy theory is looking at, right? But what if I do come on, drive to work, and I really would like a prime parking space? But the question is, what if I'm a chain smoker and I really don't think I'll be able to give up because I've tried giving up smoking twice before, and let's say I failed both times. So I feel, you know what? I really want to be able to give it up. I've tried it before and it didn't work, so I'm not even going to try this third time. And that's what this theory is looking at. So let's look at it from the beginning. And in fact, I'm going to walk backwards. All right. So let's walk from the right hand side to the left hand side. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but bear with me, it will help explain this model a little bit easier. So valence, it measures how much do you want something, how much do you want the outcome. So that parking space, how much do I want it? Or you're all students, so extra credit, how much do you really want that extra credit? How much do I really want that parking space, right? Then the actual outcome, which is the parking space in this particular instance. So the outcome is the parking space, and how much do I want the outcome, right? From that, we go back to performance. What do you need to do? Give up smoking, all right? And to give up smoking, you have to put in effort in order to achieve that result, which is performance, which is give up smoking. So now the two things that are very, very important are, what outcome will I receive if I perform at this level? Instrumentality. What will I receive? This outcome, parking space that I want. But as important as instrumentality is, or the expectation that successful performance of the task will lead to the desired outcome, is expectancy. Will I be able to perform this task? What if I think I won't be able to? Well, right here, there's a slash. I won't be performing. But what if I do think I'll be able to perform? Will I get that outcome? What if there's only one parking space and there are about 10 smokers in the building? What if I think, my chances of getting that outcome are really, really low? I might just stop working. Instrumentality. Will I really receive the outcome? Nah, there are 9 other people. My chances are 1 in 10. But what if I want it? And on top of that, I don't really want it all that much. So there are 3 things, all right? Will I be able to do something? Expectancy. Will I actually receive that reward after doing this task? Instrumentality. And then finally, how important is that reward to me? So Ruth says, why is this theory important? It's important because it helps us understand that no two people are driven by or motivated by the same thing the same way. A lot of times in my seated classes, if I want students to do some extra work, I give them extra credit every now and then, depending on whether the extra credit opportunities are available. And I noticed that not everyone does the extra credit work. And maybe 10% of the students actually do the work. It's expectancy theory. Not everyone values the extra credit. Some people who may value it think the work is too much. Maybe they have to work 6 hours to get half a point and they feel it's not worth it. Or, they think, well, I won't be able to put those 6 hours. So for example, with non-traditional students, sometimes if I give a task where they have to go to watch an event or a speaker, a lot of non-traditional students have job and home responsibilities and they're not able to make time out, which is expectancy. Will I be able to do this task? Not really. Some might as well not be motivated or even think about performing it. So it helps managers understand that if you want to apply an incentive plan, your incentive has to match the expectancy and the balance of your expectancy, instrumentality, and balance of your employees. More importantly, it has to match the balance of the employee. And it has to be something that's achievable for them. Otherwise, they will think, I won't get it, no matter how hard I try. So expectancy theory really helps understand how people really, before expectancy theory, people thought either I am motivated or I'm not. Expectancy theory helps you understand that we do this mental math whenever some new incentive comes around. And most of you must have seen that. Oh, is it worth it? Is the A in this class worth all the work that I will have to put? Then there's a SMART goal setting theory that we talked about before. Specific, measurable, achievable, rewards, or results oriented, and time specific. Goal setting theory says, set goals. We've seen that when people set goals or companies set goals and they're SMART goals, they actually see an increase in performance. So make sure it's a specific goal. Make sure it's challenging but achievable. Make sure you can measure it. If you're saying, I want all my employees to be happy, well, make sure you can measure what happiness means in that context. Make sure it's linked to a specific action plan, the results that you have, and make sure there is a time limit by this deadline or by this date or within this time period. And then give a lot of feedback. The more feedback you give your employees, the easier it will be for them to achieve the goal that you're asking of them. The next category of motivation theories is the job design. The job design primarily includes the job characteristic model by Hackman and Alden. And this model looks at 5 characteristics of a job, 5 core characteristics: variety, identity, significance, autonomy, and feedback, VISAF. I use the mnemonic VISAF to help me remember the 5 different characteristics. So these characteristics, this theory, I have a link in the description box for you to follow and watch it, which gives a more detailed explanation of this theory. Please don't forget to watch it because it will help you understand more about this theory. I'm going to quickly run over this because I have another video that helps you understand. But plain and simple, this theory is a theory of diagnosing the work environment and actually the job, diagnosing the job to see whether a problem exists, determining if the job needs to be redesigned, and consider how to redesign the job. And why would that be? Well, if your job is boring, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, it says it will make you feel lack of meaningfulness work, which means your motivation would be decreased. What if the task that you're doing, you don't really understand where it fits in to your whole company? You will not experience meaningfulness of work, which means you will get bored again and you will check out. What if the task you're doing feels like it's menial, that if you did not do your task, your company would still keep going, it would not lose anything? The theory says people feel demotivated in all those three conditions. The next two conditions, autonomy and feedback, are slightly experienced differently. Autonomy is how much responsibility for decision making for your own job you have. How much can you determine and decide about your own job, how to do it, what decisions to make and how to make them. And this theory says the more autonomy you have in your own job, the more satisfaction you will have. But here are contingency factors. Not everyone wants more autonomy, and not everyone wants more autonomy every time. How many of you have met coworkers who just want to clock in and clock out? They don't want extra responsibility. Or some of you might have been in jobs that was only a stepping stone, or a job that's only putting you through school, that's not your career. So you don't want extra responsibilities. You just want to go, get your paycheck, come back home. And so autonomy can increase job satisfaction under certain conditions. And then the last one is feedback, right? Feedback is the knowledge of actual results of your work. The theory says that when people know whether they're doing something well or they're not doing something well, their satisfaction will increase. Which means, now look at the very last right-hand side column. If you have high satisfaction, you also have high performance, low absenteeism, low turnover, high work motivation. But not everyone wants to know whether they're doing their job well or not. Just like autonomy, feedback depends on something called growth needs strength, or the need to grow. So people who have a desire for personal growth and they want to increase their knowledge and skills will want more autonomy and want more feedback. Consequently, they will benefit from it. So my suggestion to managers usually is don't just give autonomy and feedback to everyone. Well, give feedback to everyone because you do want them to improve their performance. But don't expect your feedback to motivate all your employees equally, because it will depend on who wants to grow into the job and who has the desire for more knowledge. So before I go to the next slide, please click on that link at the bottom of this video, follow it through, and watch the job characteristics model video to get more detail. Finally, the last category of theories in motivation are the reinforcement theories. The reinforcement theories came out of classical behaviorism. So they actually look at punishments and rewards and how rewards and punishments can be used in organizations for motivating people, right? So there are 4 types of reinforcements in classical behaviorism: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and then punishment and extinction. And I know a lot of you may be thinking negative reinforcement and punishment are the same thing, but they're not, and we'll talk about how they're not, right? So the example I'm going to give here is, let's say, positive reinforcement. All right, let's start with positive reinforcement. What is positive reinforcement? This is the use of positive consequences to encourage a desirable behavior, right? So you're trying to increase, you give positive reinforcement if you want certain behavior to increase, all right? So if a mother offers a trip to the ice cream store for their child every time they get an A on their exam, it's positive reinforcement because she wants the behavior of getting the A to be increased. Now, at the same time, we've seen a lot of times parents give the reward of a candy for a child to stop misbehaving. And they think that they're giving positive reinforcement. Not really, it backfires. Because positive reinforcement, whenever you're adding something, it's a reward, right? Positive reinforcement is a reward. You're giving a reward to increase certain behavior. So when a mother says, well, I will give you candy if you stop screaming in the store, the message that the child gets is, every time I want candy, I need to start screaming. And then when I stop screaming, I get the candy. And so managers too have to be very careful how they use positive reinforcement. You want people to improve their performance. You want to give rewards to increase desired behavior. You give positive reinforcement, and positive reinforcement doesn't have to be candy or ice cream or money. Even praise is positive reinforcement. So don't think of rewards just as tangible rewards. You give recognition to someone, that's positive reinforcement. Let's look at punishment before we get to negative reinforcement. What is punishment? Punishment is a process of weakening behavior by presenting something negative or withdrawing something positive, right? That's so the negative stimulus is added, all right? That's punishment, and behavior decreases. So if you want your employee who comes to work drunk to stop doing it, you write them up or you dock their pay. That's punishment, right? A lot of companies say you should not use punishment at all. You should use punishment very carefully and as few times as possible. Your first response should be to use all the other different types of reinforcement. Punishment should be the last resort. You do need to use punishment. You know, people break the law, you need to use punishment. Or people are coming to work late or coming to work drunk, you might use punishment. How is punishment different from negative reinforcement? Well, so remember, in punishment, it's the process of weakening behavior by presenting something negative, right? Negative reinforcement, on the other hand, is process of strengthening a behavior by withdrawing something negative. So you take a negative stimulus away. In punishment, you're adding something negative. In negative reinforcement, you're taking away something negative that increases behavior. So, for example, a boss tells an employee, and let's assume this employee gets evening shifts all the time and they hate evening shifts. And the boss says, you know what, do this task. And if you do this task really well, for the next whole week, you will not have any evening shifts. Or in a restaurant, you know, how many people who worked in restaurant love folding linen and filling the salt shakers or the condiment jars at the end of the day. And so let's say a boss says, whoever makes the most money or whoever has the highest rating from customers this week gets to skip folding the laundry or folding the linen or any of those things. So negative reinforcement is that you're increasing good behavior or positive behavior by taking something negative away. All right, so remember that's the difference. Finally, what is extinction? Extinction is the weakening of behavior. Now remember, the boxes in red are the two ways to decrease unwanted behavior. All right, so extinction is you weaken behavior by ignoring it or making sure it's not reinforced. All right, so you don't give any reaction, no punishment, no reward, and the behavior automatically goes away. Sadly, we tell employees or management, try not to use extinction. You want to either reinforce good behavior or you want to punish bad behavior. But unknowingly, a lot of managers end up using extinction and in a bad way. How is it used? When you have an employee who does very good work, very stellar work, and you don't give them any praise. You don't give them rewards. You don't give them praise. You don't even give them feedback. You don't go and pat Janice on her back and say, "Hey, Janice, I'm really impressed by how you handle that difficult client." Or telling Todd, I am, really, you set those reports on time, and not only were those reports on time, they were done perfectly. The client was really happy. When you don't appreciate good behavior and good performance, especially good performance that's over and above, people slowly stop doing that. So I've had managers ask me, well, do you mean I need to go pat my employees back every single time they do their job? No, that's not what extinction is asking you to do, or the lack of extinction. I'm asking, or positive reinforcement theory is saying, give verbal encouragement to your employees. It's feedback, and knowing that their work is appreciated goes a long way. Most of the times, you don't need to give monetary rewards to your employees for them to be motivated to come to work. Just saying, "Attaboy, job well done," is enough for a lot, right? So Skinner's behaviorism or behaviorist theory is a very good way of understanding how to give rewards and punishments, praise and punishment, or taking away something bad or negative reinforcement to motivate employee behavior. Right? How are these different theories applied in organizations? Commission-based sale is a very good way of looking at incentives that use motivation theory. right? Commission-based sale uses equity theory. Profit sharing, gain sharing, stock options, they use different motivation theory. Or pay for knowledge uses equity theory. Non-monetary ways of employing workers, well, giving flexible work arrangements. There's a lot of research that shows that allowing people to work their 40 hours a week within 4 days instead of 5 has actually shown increases in performance and job quality, performance quality as well. Being thoughtful towards your employees, you know, um, instead of saying, well, do I have to praise them? Yes, actually you do. That's your job as a manager, to praise your employees when they do something well, when they do something um, so well that it sets an example for other people. Appreciating your employees goes a long way. Giving good work-life benefits, having a good surrounding, a good culture, allowing non-monetary things such as sabbaticals. Sabbaticals are fully paid vacations, or rather fully paid time off for employees to improve their skills. A lot of universities do that too. Or giving skill building and educational opportunities, allowing or helping your employees go get advanced training on something that they're doing. All of these are ways of motivating your employees. Now, this is a very, very important chapter, and chances are most of you will be pulling a lot more from this chapter on a day-to-day basis than some of the other ones. So I would seriously encourage you to pay more attention to this chapter. That's all for today. Please don't forget to watch the videos that I have down at the bottom in the description box. Till next time, this is me signing out.